For years, we've heard stories. In the middle of the city, a field, the middle of nowhere. A blinding light captures your attention. You hear a hissing or a buzzing sound, and in front of you appears an object you know is not of this world. The object then zips away at astounding speed. Mere seconds have passed, but the clock says otherwise. How much time has gone? 1 hour? 4 hours? Where did it come from? What was it? These are questions that have plagued every experiencer and the stories that follow. Welcome to Everything Vaguely Paranormal. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Everything Vaguely Paranormal. As you can tell, we're a little light tonight.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to end up tumping this seesaw over without our stabilizer.
Because, see, usually it's, Ryan in the middle, and here's me and Shelly like this.
Yeah,
but tonight it's just like this.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're going to end up tumping this seesaw over.
We probably are.
And Ryan couldn't be here tonight. He has a scheduling conflict. He had something that he had to do this evening. And so we told him, we're going to try to do it without you. Cross your fingers, people. All right. Well, first of all, I wanted to tell you that if you saw on our schedule that we were supposed to have Dave Miller tonight from Blind Frog Ranch. Unfortunately, he had a scheduling issue that came up very last minute, and he had to travel over 500 miles. And so we're like, we get it. We understand. We will have him on as soon as he gets to where he needs to be. So I hope if you saw the schedule and you were looking forward to speaking or listening to him tonight, we will have him on, just not tonight. So we changed it up just a little bit. What are we doing tonight, Mr. Blake?
And tonight we decided that we were going to bring you some of the most bizarre documented alien stories that are out there. And I mean, we are talking like super bizarre.
Yeah, we dug up some really strange ones. We were running down a few of them right before we started, and Blake was like, "What?" I go, "So if you are a skeptic, then you will get a jolly chuckle out of these. And if you are a believer, you might go, yeah, I've seen one of those."
Yeah.
And that's cool. Type it in the comments.
Yeah, for real.
I'd love to talk to you.
But first, we're going to start with the new pictures that are being released from the James Webb Space Telescope. Y'all, how fascinating is this?
That is so cool.
It is one of the most clearest pictures of the universe, cosmos, whatever you want to label it, that we have ever seen. And what's in this picture is the equivalent of holding a grain of sand between your fingers and extending your arm out to the sun. That's how big this picture is. It is tiny compared to what's actually out there. So who knows? Maybe our little visitors in our stories tonight will be from one of these galaxies.
I think that red one's probably where the frog people are from.
Think the red one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you look at the top right, that red point out. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I think that's where that's where the frog aliens are from. So we found, like I said, we found the strangest, weirdest ones that we could possibly find, because some of these, y'all, actually are funny. Now, if you're a believer and you've had this happen to you, I'm sorry, we're not poking fun at you. These just caught our attention and made us giggle.
Yes.
So Okay, Blake, now you have teased this one and teased this one, and I have
I've teased
not
this one for
heard
months.
the story about this. Can we please start off with your story about?
Absolutely. The Missouri space penguins.
Yes, I need to know all about this. Please tell
I'm
me.
not kidding. So first, let me tell you, I got this book. Actually, I have. Well, it's around here somewhere. Anyways, and it's about chasing cryptids around America. And in there, they have every now and then they'll have like an alien story or something like that. And I was just thumbing through, and I got to the Missouri section because they break it down by state. And I was like, oh, the Momo, the this, the that, blah blah. And then I flipped the page, and it said Missouri space penguins. And I went,
You actually immediately called
what?
us.
I did. I was like, guys,
what I found.
there is Missouri space penguins. But not only that, girl, I started delving into it. And I know I've been teasing y'all with this for like probably
Because you wouldn't
6
tell
months.
us.
Yeah, because I was waiting for the alien episodes. I knew they were coming. I knew they were going to come. So, but what I found out about this is there's actually one photo from this event. Yeah.
Oh, you actually have a picture.
I actually have a picture I'm going to show tonight about these space penguins from Missouri. So let me break it down for you real quick. So this is what happens. And most of these stories we'll tell tonight are kind of short. So we're going to kind of jump.
So we
back
have
and forth.
several for you.
Yes, we do. So this one takes place in Tuscumbia, Missouri. And Farmer Edwards, I think was his last name. Edwards. He was a 64 Claude Edwards. He was a 64-year-old farmer who lived in Tuscumbia, Missouri. And Tuscumbia, Missouri is right almost dead center in Missouri, right off the Osage River. And he goes out one chilly morning and he's getting ready to do his farming duties, and he's sitting on the front porch and he's pulling up his boots by the bootstraps. And he goes over there and he picks up his bucket of feed and he starts trucking down to the barn. But he notices on his way that all his cows in the east pasture are staring in one direction. And so he starts to kind of look towards where they're looking, and he sees this something through a grove of trees, but he can't quite make it out. So he keeps on trucking towards the barn. And as he gets closer, this shiny metallic object starts to kind of appear within this grove of trees. And he starts to think, holy shit, I think that might be like a craft of some sorts. Aliens, UFO. So what does he do? He done seen it. What does he do? He continues trucking towards his barn. Not my ass. I'd have hightailed it back to the truck and got the hell out of here.
He had things to do. Yeah, he had things to do.
He's
little
straight
green man
older.
or not.
Yeah, straight older farmer, and he's heading out to do his farm duties. He had stuff he had to get done. It reminds me very much of my grandfather. So he makes it to the barn and he locks the barn behind him, and he starts peering out of the barn and he's looking through this grove of trees, and now he can see it. He can see this spaceship. It's sitting in a meadow on the other side of the grove of trees, and all that's between him is two fence lines about 70 feet and a herd of cows. And he starts getting pissed because his cows are getting spooked. Now, if you know any farmer, and I'm sure you do.
Oh, Lord.
They don't like when their livestock is spooked. And I grew up on a farm, and I will attest, no, we freaking hate it.
Me too. And if your cows get spooked enough and run, they can die.
They actually can.
And yes. They are expensive. They're expensive.
Yes, they can. Or yes, they are.
So yeah, you don't want anything to run your cattle.
So he starts thinking, shit, what can I do? My cows are getting spooked. I got to protect my herd, all this stuff. He has no weapons on him. Come on, you were at the house, dude, or I would have turned around and grabbed a shotgun or something. But anyways.
Why didn't he have one on him?
I have no idea. But little Mr. Claude Edwards, 64-year-old farmer, decides, I'm going to go confront the sumbitch because they're scared of my cows.
Uh-huh.
So he heads out and he hops over the first fence. And in between the first and second fence, he reaches down and he picks up two big old rocks. And he starts carrying them with him. And he makes his way to the second fence. He pitches the rocks over and he climbs over, picks them back up, and he continues walking. Now he's getting closer and closer and closer, and he's starting to see movement in the grove of trees. And he gets about 15 feet away from it. And he realizes that there are these 3-foot tall beings that are running all around this object. And they looked very child size. But they had a distinctive color, being a greenish, grayish color. Now, from his drawing that he drew, and I do have a picture of it, they look a little more green.
Okay.
They look a little more green to me. But he also described them as having this protrusion from their mouth nose area. Now he couldn't tell if it was the actual like breathing apparatus or some type of protection of the breathing apparatus. And their eyes looked to be big, huge, and black. And he couldn't tell if they were wearing goggles or if those were actually his eyes. So, and the reason why there's no hands in these drawings is the guy that went to talk to him after this was like, well, we could never figure out if he just didn't know if they had hands or not, or if they were just moving around so fast that he just couldn't see what the appendages looked like. So when he drew his drawing, he just drew them with no hands. But the reason why he says that they were space penguins is because the way that they distinctly walked, they waddled.
Oh, hell no.
So these little green things are waddling over his pasture, scaring his cows.
I gotta tell you, if I was a cow, that'd probably spook me too.
Now, I did not find anything about maybe what they were doing, what they were trying to take, or anything like that. But again, Farmer Edwards is over here and he's pissed. And so, goddamn creatures or not, I'm gonna protect my cows. So he takes the first rock and he hurls it at. Oh, I'm sorry. First off, as he's getting 15 feet away, he is hit by this force. He didn't call it a force shield because he said he didn't hit a wall and stop, but so much that as he crossed a certain point of it, that there was so much pressure that he just could not go forward. So he backed up about 10 feet, and that's when he gets really pissed. And he grabs that first rock and he hurls it at this crap.
He chunked it.
He chunked it.
Chunked it right at him.
And the rock goes flying. It does hit the force shield, and it hits and it falls to the ground.
Oh, they got an invisible force field around him? That's pretty cool.
And so what does this do but just infuriate him even more? So he grabs that second rock and he chunks it even harder. Now it makes it through the force shield. And he sees in his eyes going towards the spacecraft. And just before it hits the spacecraft, it pings off like a rock skipping water is what he said. Now this spacecraft is not small. It's about 18 feet across and it's about 8 to 10 feet in height. And it's got this cylinder about a meter. I can't show you a meter on the screen, but anyways, about a meter round.
3 feet. We're not.
Yeah, about 3 feet. Well, the story said a meter. Anyways.
I know.
And it's sitting in his pasture. This is a depiction of kind of what he saw. And just to answer Ken said like a penguin. Yes, like a penguin. You may have missed that part, but they were waddling like penguins. So,
Ken's keeping up with us here because it's like it's funny because we only said that at the beginning, but it is. It's you said like penguins, but good catch, Ken.
Yeah, like penguins. And so this is a depiction of the ship that's sitting in his meadow. And anyways, when he starts throwing these two rocks at it, and one of them almost hits the spacecraft but bounces off. These little green men no longer are waddling like this, but they're waddling like this because there's somebody trying to attack their ship.
Oh, now they're going to come at him.
And so they all start running towards the tube that's holding the ship up, and they
now there's a tube on the ship?
Yeah, there's a little tube.
No, so they could...
Yeah, that's what I was talking about, the 3 feet wide tube.
Got it.
That's in the middle. That's in the middle of the ship. That's kind of holding it up or whatnot. So they go running behind that and they disappear. Now, of course, he assumed that they're
penguins
probably
can't fly, so it had to suck them up, right?
He assumed that there was probably some type of entrance into that tube that led them into the craft. And so they get in there and this craft starts to lurch at him a couple of times. And then finally it starts to take off into the sky. It hovers for a little bit and then it just zooms out of sight, never to be seen again. Now, the fun part is afterwards, after this experience that Claude has had. I love that his name is Claude. I love that name. I don't know why. But anyways, his brother introduces him to this guy who claims to be a UFO investigator. And so Claude was like, I don't really want to be speaking about this. Like, Claude was this hardworking, didn't get anybody's business, no drama, no nothing type of guy. He didn't want a bunch of people knowing that he had just synced some aliens, okay?
He synced him some space penguins.
He synced him some space penguins. And so this UFO investigator does come out. He does agree to meet with him. And at first, Claude's like, no, I'm not telling you shit. You can forget it. And after a couple
you can get bent.
You can get bent. And after a couple of minutes of asking him some questions about like farming and the land and all that stuff, he starts to warm up to him. And he does open up and he tells him of his entire experience. And this UFO investigator goes out exactly where the spaceship had landed in the meadow, and he starts taking pictures. And he also took samples of the soil where the spacecraft had sat versus the soil further out. And the soil where the spacecraft had sat was completely dehydrated, no moisture whatsoever. Now the soil further out, completely normal. And he snapped one picture of a 3-foot size hole where the tube had sat in Claude Edwards Meadow, where the spacecraft had landed. And he saw his little green penguins running around. Now, go ahead.
Continue with your fabulous story. I have a question. Go ahead. I want to hear the end of it. You might answer it.
Okay. So now Claude tells him, he says, "You do not tell my name whatsoever until the day that I die. I don't want anybody knowing this." And not once did he ever come forward and tell his story to anybody else. He never attempted to try and gain fame or notoriety from it. And the UFO investigator kept his word. The day that Claude died was the day that UFO investigator finally released his name and what had happened. So who knows? Maybe there's a planet out there with little green space penguins just waddling across the... Okay, what were you going to say?
Okay, so I was looking at that hole. Now, I've seen some pretty big gopher holes in the pasture.
I know. Hold on.
That's not a gopher hole.
Yeah.
Are we sure that's not a big old gopher hole?
I mean, it could be. I'm not saying this is legit 100% evidence of the fact, because anybody can dig a freaking hole. To me, it looks like you take post hole diggers and you dig.
That does look like a post hole, digger that you put into the ground to set your fence posts.
Yes.
But he synced it, so we're going to take him at his word.
He did, and so that is the story of. Too bad Ryan wasn't on here because I've been teasing y'all for 6 months.
I know.
That's the story of the Missouri space penguins. They're space penguins, guys.
So you're right. That one, you were like, you're not going to believe it when I tell you. And I'm like, no, I probably won't. And you're right. I don't. But and the fact that we can't ask Claude, that always becomes an issue with me, that we can't ask the person. But yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. So Mr. Claude Edwards' experience did not follow along the lines of what the alleged template of how we have been told aliens appear, like featureless and gray and small and real slender bodies and big eyes.
Right.
And, they can be gray or green. Little green men, little gray skinned men. Grays are apparently the most common species that we see, right?
I almost said popular, but... Wrong terminology.
They are. They're the captain of the football team and the head cheerleader, right?
Right.
So, and like the rest of it kind of follows that, they see spaceships and they're taken aboard and bad things happen to them and then their memories erased. Well, that doesn't necessarily seem to be the theme and the things that we are going to talk about tonight. So I'm going to take you over to Malaysia, okay? Because I'm going to tell you about Malaysia's tiny aliens. Have you ever heard of the tiny aliens?
I have not. How tiny are we talking?
Let me tell you. So apparently there's been several of these kind of stories reported, but this one is the one that I like the best. And this one occurred on August 19th of 1970. There were 6 kids that were playing in a forest in Malaysia. Can't speak, okay? And they claimed that they saw a UFO. And that it was less than 3 feet across. It's itty bitty UFO, less than 3 feet. Mm-hmm. And from which 5 little humanoid aliens filtered out. 5 little guys just scampered out of it.
It's like a damn clown car over here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the main difference between them and human beings were that they were only about 8 centimeters tall. Or that's basically, if you don't know, that's only about 3 inches. Okay.
Yeah, that's like.
So 4 of them, according to these kids, were blue outfits. And one was in yellow with a spiked helmet. And this was obviously their leader. And or at least that's what the children decided, that this one was their leader. And so they went, these little, tiny aliens, they went to a tree. And they appeared to be trying to install some kind of device on it. Now, what these kids were doing, I don't know, they're like, man, what is that? I mean, there had to have been that one idiot kid that's like, let's go catch one. But no, apparently they just watched these little, teeny tiny aliens go over to a tree, and they were trying to just, install some kind of aerial device in it. And then that is finally when one of the kids attempted one of the few alleged civilian abduction of aliens. So he tried to take one of them little suckers.
Civilian abduction
Yes.
of aliens.
Yes.
Yeah. Because we know it usually goes the
It's
other
usually
way.
the other way around. Unfortunately for him, it turned out that these little tiny, 3-inch tall aliens, they all had little ray guns, and they began shooting at the boy and his schoolmate, driving them away and inflicting insignificant wounds. But one of them was in the child's thigh. So anyway, that was.
I don't mean to laugh, but all I can hear right now is like these 3-inch tall aliens just pew 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 pew.
Yeah,
pew,
that's
pew.
exactly right. That's exactly right. And so that's that was that's basically the little teeny tiny aliens ran them off with their
And we're
pew,
sure
pew, pew.
we're sure that there's like no drugs involved on this, right?
It says that these were about 10 to 12-year-old kids. So you would think not, but who knows? It's Malaysia. Isn't that where that kid smoking the cigarette at like 2 comes from? And that viral meme?
I have no idea.
That video, isn't that where that comes from? But these kids were supposedly about 8 to 12 years old. And that, these little 3-inch tall aliens come out of this little 3-foot wide spaceship, start trying to install stuff on the tree, and they decide they're going to snatch them one, and they're like pew 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 and bring the kids off.
I mean, did they like walk out of the spaceship all in one form line, just going oompa, oompa?
I know, that's what I thought too. Right? Exactly.
I've got another puzzle for you.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh! So these little guys just. They're coming in there. They're trying to do something to the trees. Okay, these little turds are going to mess with them.
And these little assholes were like, "Not today, Mr. Keebler. You're coming home with me."
That's right. Come on, Mr.
Pew,
Elf.
pew, pew, pew.
Come on, Mr. Elf. Yeah,
I
don't know, but literally that is all of the story. That is where it ends. That the kids ran off, and it inflicted only insignificant minor injuries on one of the children's thighs. So I mean,
minor insignificant
injuries. So I mean, I guess it you ever been popped with a BB gun? You lived out in the country. I'm sure you got popped with a BB gun at some point in your life.
Yeah.
And it stings for a second, it welts up, but doesn't break the skin. It might leave a little teeny tiny, welt on you or something.
I'm just trying to envision the injury that a tiny little that probably can't be more than a 1/2-inch ray gun can make.
Well, they're only 3 inches tall. That'd be a big old ray gun if it was an inch tall, right? I mean, if it got to be even smaller than that.
Well, I said half inch.
I
but
know.
It have to be even smaller than that. But yeah, I mean, what kind of damage could that really do to a full-grown freaking kid? I mean,
I don't know.
No idea.
It doesn't go into any more detail than that.
Oh God, that's gold right there, Shelley. How are you?
So, but wait, I'll go ahead and I'll follow up with another one because I know that you have another one. But I'm gonna tell you one that was probably the stupidest one I found. God. And this one was entitled Brawl with an Alien. So in 1954, Gustavo Gonzalez and Jose Ponce, his name might have been Cuervo, I'm not really sure. They were driving their truck along a lonely road outside of Caracas. Now, again, outside the United States, in Caracas, Venezuela, when they rounded a corner and found a large luminescent sphere blocking their way. More annoyed that someone was disrupting traffic than the fact there was this big thing in the middle of the road, Gonzalez got out to investigate. And at that point, allegedly, the hatch on the ship opened. And out came 3 short, hairy humanoids. And one of them jumped on Gonzalez, who was barely able to shake him off at first because, as he put it, the alien was both light yet extremely strong. Can you imagine this little hair? I mean, little
light but extremely strong.
Yeah, he says he was light but yet extremely strong, astonishingly strong. And in the scuffle, the alien threw Gonzalez about 15 feet up into the air, just chunked him. Gonzalez, he is pissed. So he drops his knife and he tries to stab the alien with it. But he found that its little body was like steel and the blade was like pew, 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 just bouncing off of it. Gonzalez could not stab him. Still, the aliens at that point must have been a little bit intimidated by big old Mr. Gonzalez. And they purportedly got back in their ship, leaving the pair to report the odd encounter to the police. They did, however, get a surprise corroboration from a police officer who claimed that he had seen the entire thing.
What? No way. Shut up.
So, okay, is anybody else picturing the Muppet Show guy coming out going, and all of a sudden he's out of this going, ah!
I mean, a little bit like, but wait, hold on, wait. He had a
or from that what was that one? The Dark Crystal.
Oh, the Dark Crystal. Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm picturing. Little tiny hairy aliens that just decide they're going to jump on him. You know, Fitzgig. That was his name, right? Fitzgig.
I think so. Oh God, don't get me lying. I think so.
Boy, that's a reference from way back when.
But wait, they had a police officer corroborate this story
in Caracas, Venezuela. Yes.
So see, this is the interesting one about these bizarre documented alien stories is because it's like you have these one or two. It
sounds so unbelievable.
Right, but you have these one or two little things that like the picture. Okay, yeah, it could have been a gopher hole, could have been a post hole, digger hole, anything like that. But you have the picture, you have a police officer that corroborates. You've got multiple witnesses trying to capture the Keebler elf as it comes down to make its chocolate chip cookies in the tree.
Yeah. Then you see a policeman get with some dude who's like looks like Fizzgig, attacking this big old guy who's trying to stab it with a knife. I mean, and that's the only time I've ever heard of hairy aliens. That is the only time I've ever heard of hairy aliens.
I think I came across the same story and I had read hairy aliens, and I believe it was the same one. And I was like, no, I'm not going to pull that one. I've got another one. I've got one that's a little bit more serious that I'm about to get into, but,
should we do all of our funny ones first then?
I think no, because I think you need to follow it up with some more funny ones because mine does get pretty serious.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, yeah, I think that's the first time that I've heard hairy aliens.
Yes, he, Mr. Gonzalez describes him as big, hairy. Now, apparently, old Jose Ponce, he don't say nothing. There's nothing. And it's Gonzalez who says he's in the car with him. Ponce is probably like, don't drag me into your shit. Don't want nothing to do with it.
Right.
But I just think it's interesting that, he's like, he was light, but surprisingly strong. It's like, and apparently just attacks him. I guess because he got out of his vehicle, or I don't know why.
Maybe he felt threatened. Maybe they were up to something, and that's why the hatch opened when he got out, and he felt threatened, so he jumped him. And he had a brawl with a human.
I guess. I mean, he probably went back to his own planet. Was like, listen, I can believe it just happened.
On some alternate universes somewhere, there are two hairy alien beings sitting on a podcast going, well, and Fred went down to this one place called Earth and had a brawl with this thing called a human. And it had no hair except on the top of its head.
And do you believe that people, that we think that humans actually exist? Some of us actually do believe that humans exist. Yeah, they're probably laughing at us right now too.
Yeah, they probably are.
So yeah, that was your brawl with an alien story.
So
yeah, just
3-inch tall aliens trying to make Keebler elf cookies. I'm convinced that's what they were doing. I'm sorry.
I think so too. I think they were trying to get in that tree, and they do make delicious cookies, don't they?
They do. They do.
And then cookies.
A brawl with a hairy alien.
And again, hairy. That's kind of what caught my eyes is hairy.
Yeah.
They haven't been now. I'm not sure the dude wasn't drunk and didn't just wrestle a gopher, but
maybe it was maybe it was one of those big large rodents, the capybara or something like that. Who knows?
I don't like those things. Those are rats.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's their closest relative. That's why they're called rodents. They're the largest land rodent. Yeah,
and you can have them.
Yeah. So I have got one that's a little bit more on the serious side. We're gonna go down a serious actual. It's a little bizarre, but it's an actual serious alien abduction story. And this one is called. Some of y'all may have heard of it, but this one is called the Pascagoula River Aliens. And this one takes place on October 11th, 1973 in the outskirts of Pascagoula, Mississippi, on the Pascagoula River. Now, that's the very southern easternmost tip of Mississippi, basically, right around in that area. And what ends up happening is that Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker are co-workers, and they work at a shipyard down there. They get off work, and they decide that they're going to go fishing for the night. Well, not for the night, but they're just going to go fishing. So they go and they sit on the pier, and they're fishing there, and the sun starts to go down. Sun is completely set. And all of a sudden, Calvin sees these lights reflecting in the water, and he stops and thinks, great. After Hickson's done told me that we're safe down here, it's all good with all these no trespassing signs up. Police have showed up, and they're telling us to leave. So he turns around to tell him, hey, I thought you said, look. And he stopped because when he turns around, he's noticed that Hickson is looking as well. And they see a craft. And it's got these flashing blue lights on it and a very blinding light as well. That's just kind of enveloping them at this point. And so they're kind of transfixed on this. And what ends up happening is that this hatch opens up and these three beings stepped out. Now, this object, real quick, just to tell you, is again kind of like the last one that I was talking about. It's about 8 to 10 feet in height. It didn't really, I think they said it was 30 feet. So it's quite a bit longer. And it's hovering just off the ground. And these three entities step out, and they were also hovering off the ground. They had no feet, no legs, nothing like that. Like I said, they were completely paralyzed. And they described these monsters as being about 5 foot tall with bullet-shaped heads. So very kind of
cone heads.
Kind of cone-headish, if you will. They had no necks. Their mouths, ears, and nose were nothing but slits. And they had these cones sticking off the side of their head, kind of shaped like carrots that protruded outward. And instead of hands, they had pincer-type claws. Kind of look like crab claws, if you will, is what they said. And so very, very kind of, oh, shit, type looking.
So got carrots coming out of their heads and pinchers on their hands.
Well, not carrot, but cones.
Yeah.
Like carrot-shaped cones, pinchers on their hands. And these
and they're cone-headed.
They're cone-headed, slits for eyes, nose, ears, and mouth, no necks, and they're floating. And they're coming towards Hickson or towards Charles and Calvin. And Calvin says that one of them grabbed both of them by the arm, and it was that moment that they started to lead them up to the ship. They get them to the door of the ship, and they stop. And he said he didn't realize what had exactly happened, but this sense of peace and calm came over both of them. And he swore that they were injected with something to calm them down. And after that brief stop and this calming sensation, they floated inside. Not walked, but floated into the ship. Now, Hickson didn't really go into, or Charles, sorry, I've been calling them by their last name when I was typing out the story. Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker. So Hickson doesn't really describe his whole experience inside the ship, but Calvin goes into detail about what took place. So he says that he was led down a long hallway and into a room and placed on an examination table that was completely made out of glass. He could not move his body. He was completely paralyzed, again, thinking he thinks he was injected with something. And all of a sudden, out of the ceiling comes this little object that's about the size of a deck of cards. And it starts whizzing around him, making this kind of clicking noise. And what he took it as, it reminded him very much of like an MRI machine.
Okay.
Is what he thought, because it finished doing all this clicking and whizzing around his body, and it shot back up into the ceiling. And that's whenever the door opens and this being walks in. Now, this being is very different from the three that led them inside. This being is female. He can tell because it looks like a human female. There was only one thing that was different about her, is that her two middle fingers were a lot longer than a normal adult female. And she made her way.
So no pinchers. No pinchers.
She actually had hands. She had a body.
Okay.
She had legs. She looked like you sitting on the screen right now.
Okay.
The only difference was her two middle fingers were a lot longer than the rest of her fingers, or what an adult female should be. So
no, it's not me.
You're in the clear.
I'm in the clear.
So this Female being walks up to him and places her right hand on his jaw and opens his mouth and begins to run her hand down his throat to where he said it made him completely uncomfortable. He started gagging, he started coughing, and she kind of, as he said, I guess freaked out a little bit because she started to retract her fingers. She's shoving these 2 long ass fingers down his throat is what's happening. And as she's pulling her back, she's scratching all up the inside of his throat. Ooh. And finally pulls him out, and he can taste blood and all that stuff. And he's been hurt from this experience. Not really wanting to hurt him anymore, I guess, she ends up releasing him, if you will. And the same entities that brought him into the ship come back and get him. And they take him back to the outside of the ship, set him on the side of the riverbank, and bring Hickson. Same things happens with him. He's set on the side of the riverbank, and this spaceship leaves these 2 men sitting on the side of the riverbank going, the fuck just happened? And so they both had decided, we ain't saying shit. Nobody's got to know. Mm-hmm. We're not gonna tell our secrets. And they start heading back to the car to go home because obviously completely freaked.
Right.
And when they get back to the car's passenger window is completely smashed, but it's still in the frame until they open the door, and then it falls out of the door. And they get in the car, and this car is relatively new, and it's never had any trouble whatsoever starting before. And they try and turn it over, and it takes about 2 or 3 times to finally get it to start. It's having a hard time starting.
Yeah, you're hearing that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And so finally they get it to turn over, and they start leaving the area. And they're driving off, and Hickson decides, no, we have to tell somebody. And so they pull over, they find a payphone, and they call, I believe it's the Kessler Air Force Base. And they tell them exactly what happened. The Kessler Air Force Base tells them, we don't handle alien abduction cases anymore. Project Blue Book is done. Like, it's finished. And he says, okay, what do I do? I've had, this shit happened to me. And she said, reach out to the sheriff's department. So they drive to the sheriff's department. They go in and they sit down with a couple of deputies. And they start telling the deputies what's happening. And the deputies are interviewing them, and they're not believing shit that these guys are saying. They're like, they're making it up. It is, it's whatever, blah, blah, blah. So they interviewed them separately, brought them back together, and left the room. Well, when they left the room, they left a recording going in there. And Hickson and Parker are both in there going, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. My life's going to be torn apart. I mean, they're just going on and on. Like, don't tell the police. Like, these things will come back for us. Like, the police will come for us. Like, nobody's going to believe us. Our lives are ruined. I mean, they're freaking out to where the point, like, Calvin starts praying. Calvin's on the verge of crying. And it was finally that these deputies there went back and listened to this tape going, we're going to catch these son of a bitches lying. And they listened to that and they heard what they were talking about. And they were like, shit. I think these guys are telling the truth. There might be some credibility to this. So Calvin and Charles are like, please don't tell anybody. We don't want any repercussions from this. And well, too late. They go to work the next day. There's reporters everywhere.
Everybody knows.
Everybody knows. Their employer knows. There's over 200 reporters in the area. They actually have, we have a surprise guest right now.
What are we talking
Ryan! Wow, we were talking about our alien stories.
Okay, well, I popped in for just a sec. I only have just a sec. I don't know if you saw, but it's abductee Ryan. I've been abducted, so I can't talk too long. I broke away.
Run.
So,
well, we appreciate you.
It's a trick.
We appreciate you popping in. I was just in the middle of the Pascagoula River aliens.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Cool story.
Yeah.
I wish I could be there to experience the story with y'all, but unfortunately I cannot this evening. So
that's okay.
Remember, if you get probed, that does cost extra.
Yeah, I know. It was on the menu. I mean, that was right next to something else. So.
Well, we're glad that you joined us for just a second.
Yeah. I said I can't stay long though. I just wanted to pop in and say I wish I. And I hope y'all are having a good time.
Well, we appreciate
it,
Ryan.
Okay, bye, y'all. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
I'll see you later.
Oh.
So I'm getting beamed up. I'll see you later.
Okay.
Bye. Bye. Oh, I wish he could join us tonight, but like he said, he had a scheduling conflict. So we and Shelly are trying to teeter the seesaw together. I think we're doing pretty good so far.
I think we're holding together. We're
a little bit.
We got a little too excited when Ryan got here. We're like, oh, good.
I know.
Our balance is back. And it's like, oh, but he's going to go get abducted and probed. Okay.
Yeah, he is.
That's all right.
So back to that story. So basically, they're like, they show up to work and all these reporters are there. And actually, as two other people, and I wrote this down to make sure I get this right, two other people are there as well. Dr. J. Allen Hynek is there.
Oh.
And Dr. James Harder is also there. And they are there to interview these two men together and hypnotize them to see if they can't get some answers. Now, I know you and I have briefly spoken about Hynek, but if you want to fill our listeners and viewers in on who Hynek, kind of his importance, I mean, he's kind of a big
he's
big
very,
deal.
very big in ufology. He did a lot of hypnosis. He did a lot of regression. He is he not the Betty and Barney Hill guy too? Is it Hynek?
God dang it, Ryan, where'd you go?
I know, where the hell is Ryan?
Ryan be able to tell us like that.
Yeah, and so he's very, very, I mean, this guy's a big deal. And did Hynek work on Project Blue Book too?
So he was part of 3 major UFO I guess studies undertaken by the Air Force, and that was Project Sign, Project Grudge, and Project Blue Book.
Yeah, I was fixing to say. I was pretty sure it's Project Blue Book.
Oh, Ryan has taken over commenting in the comments for us.
What did he say?
Project Blue Book lead investigator is what he said. So thank you, Ryan. So
I was pretty sure it was Project Blue Book, and I thought the second that comes out of my mouth, I will be wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, Brian, we need our human encyclopedia because I have to remember stuff if you're not here.
Right. So.
And he did a lot of hypnotherapy stuff. He worked with a lot of people who hypnotize people. So
both of these men are there to interview these two guys, Hickson and Parker. Now, I never found I didn't get to go far enough into it to be able to find if they actually went into hypnosis with him and stuff like that. Now, I know that the two men were subjected to polygraph tests, to voice stress tests, and a couple of other things along with their stories, the secret recorded tape. Excuse me. It led to a lot of credibility to the story years later, whenever multiple witnesses started coming forward, basically being like, hey, I was there that night and yeah, I saw the same shit. But these two men, their lives were absolutely pretty much ruined from this. I mean, they both got fired because reporters, they would pack up, move town. They'd take on assumed names. As soon as somebody figured out who they actually were, it'd start all over again. And Parker went through a divorce, and it wasn't until basically like 2011 that Parker's wife, they got remarried, separation, I guess, if you will. They got remarried, and at her urging, she was like, look, you're going absolutely insane with this, trying to conceal your identity, conceal who you are. It's just time. She's like, it is time to come basically out of the dark, let people know who you are, tell them your name, write a book, get it out there, and give them the answers so you can stop. Oh, I know. But so you can stop this whole mental game that you're playing with yourself, basically. And so in 2011, after Hickson had died, he did release a book. And that one is entitled, I don't remember off the top of my head, Pascagoula, The Closest Encounter, My Story, Calvin Parker. And that actually got a historical landmark in 2019 on the site where the two men were abducted, which is this site here on the pier, where the two men were abducted, because it is now one of the best documented alien abduction cases that there is, because of the amount of credible witnesses that have come forward, the tests that they took, their secret video. I mean, they chalk it all up to labeling it as evidence.
Yeah, you know what I would give the most credibility to in that story? The fact that the police left a recorder running and left the room and left them in there together.
Yep.
It wasn't like they were trying to get stories straight. They were like, I can't believe that happened. You know, why the hell did we come here? Now we're being detained. You know, we should have just gone home. That actually, to me, lends a lot of credibility to this story. Now, granted, I went out of my way to find ones that were funny and kind of, okay.
I had to have one serious one.
You did.
We were going to be chock full of hilarious ones.
Yeah, and that one seems like one that we could just I could dig my teeth into that one. And that one I've heard about, but I didn't know a whole lot about it.
It's
So
been
that
and also there was another the other credibility of it is that both men actually showed up to the police department or the sheriff's department with the same marking on in the same spot on the same arm, which lends kind of a little bit of credibility to the fact that they may have been
really
injected with something to give them that peaceful feeling.
did anyone else ever come forward after that that you're aware of that had the similar markings or reported
No.
the similar thing at the same time?
The only thing that I was able to find at the credible witnesses, they called them credible witnesses, no names, no background or anything like that, but they did say that credible witnesses had come forward saying that they were on the river that night or down in the pier area that night and witnessed the exact same thing that the men were saying that they witnessed. The craft that was 30 foot long, 8 foot tall, blue lights, blinding light, all that kind of stuff. So there were a lot of people that came forward to back up their story that happened.
So
to be
there
there.
were witnesses to the lights.
Correct.
But
The
not really
lights in the
anything else.
craft. Not
The
really
lights
to
in the
anything
craft.
else. The lights in the craft,
Okay.
though.
Yeah, I think I believe it's Travis Walton's one of the few that actually has witnesses of him actually being pulled up into the ship. Correct. So yeah. Oh, don't worry.
So.
We'll get to Travis Walton at some point.
Oh, we will. He'll be an episode in and of himself.
Yes, yes, we will get to him. Not today or tomorrow or even this month. He
Nope.
is a big one. He is a big story, which means we need several months to go to do our research and be prepared. That's a good one.
What we can get back to is some funny ass freaking alien stories. Since I've said my serious one now, we needed one serious one.
Oh yeah. So you're telling me you want a funny one now?
Oh, give me a juicy good one. One that's just full of shit.
Okay. Let's go back to the farmers. Now we've had our people in the woods there and the guys that were fishing. Let's go back to the farmers. So there was this farmer named Gary Wilcox. Gee, where have we heard the name Wilcox before? I believe he was the same last name as the name of the sheriff in Roswell. Just interesting. I see these same names, like last names, seeming to pop up. This seeming to be a thread.
Right.
So there was a New York farmer named Gary Wilcox, and he allegedly had a meeting with aliens on April the 24th of 1964, prior to Roswell. Roswell was in 67.
Mm-hmm.
So he had seen a cigar-shaped object in the sky that he mistook. And, he saw it whiz by, and he mistook it for a plane. And he rode up to it on a tractor because he thinks a plane went down. So he's on his tractor. He tootling along. Those things reach a top speed of I don't know what in 1964, but he wasn't hauling ass to get there.
No,
okay?
no.
And so he rolls up on his tractor. Sorry, just like he's rolling up on a tractor. That's okay. And it turned out that it contained two beings in clothing that hid their faces. And they told Wilcox that they were Martians. And then they began to ask him questions. And it lasted for over 2 hours until eventually they got down to the business of what they were there for. And they explained that they were attempting to terraform Mars by way of studying samples of Earth's soil. So, old Farmer Wilcox, he's like, all right, well, what does that have to do with me? And they told him that they needed a bag of fertilizer.
Wait, so they needed some shit.
They needed a sack of shit. Because, see, they had no cows on Mars. And they needed some fertilizer. So Wilcox obligingly gathers him up about 75-pound bag worth of fertilizer.
No.
Only to find that the Martians had left before he got back. So he wouldn't pick up all this shit for him. Stuck it in a sack. Well, since they'd already left, he thought, well, you know what? I'll just leave this right here. He left it in the spot and he took off on his tractor back to his house. But the next day, he went back out to check that spot. Surprisingly enough, the 75-pound sack of shit was gone.
Really?
It was gone. So
talk about your curbside.
Yeah. But Mr. Gary Wilcox in 1964 said that there were no cows on Mars. and that if they were going to
Terraform.
terraform, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to say the word. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
Cultivate the soil and enrich the soil so they could do things with it. They needed a sack
Of shit.
April 24th of 1964.
Not a small one either, but 75 pounds of shit.
Well, that's what Mr. Wilcox gave them. He's being neighborly. He's going to give them all they needed. He didn't want them to have to come back. That must have been a long ride. That wouldn't be very neighborly.
Must have been pretty quick. They came back and got it next day. Curbside pickup, I'm telling you. Target ain't got nothing on them. On him.
And you know what? One of those aliens, his wife came back and says, "Did you get it?" No. Then you know what? You're going to have to go back to the store tomorrow. You're going to have to go back to her tomorrow. I told you, don't come home without it. Oh, my God. Yeah, somebody turned his ass around and sent him right back.
Ken said that's a shit story.
That is a shit story. But Mr. Gary Wilcox on April the 24th of 1964 says that it happened.
For a sack of shit. I love it.
Sack of shit.
Where the hell did you pick these up at, girl?
I'm telling you, child, whenever I say I go down really strange rabbit holes, you don't want to know the rocks I crawl under. I find some interesting ones. So I do have another one for you.
Okay.
You ever heard of lizard people?
I have.
Oh, good. Because we're going to go to Italy now. We got an Italian alien story.
Man, I like Shelley's itinerary. We're just going
around
the world.
Go around the world with these weird alien sightings. You had a nice serious one. I did not go the serious route. I went for everyone who is a bit of a skeptic or who hears about all these strange different types and goes, oh, whatever. Okay, these are for you. Okay, these are for you.
Yeah.
We know how strange they sound. So there was a private security guard, and his name was Pierre Zenfretta. And he was allegedly driven to unusually and dangerous extremes by an alleged encounter that left behind relatively strong, yet still kind of inconclusive evidence. So there was actually evidence along with this. On December the 6th of 1978, so that's kind of when the whole Roswell thing was coming back to light, was in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So this was December 6th of 1978. Pierre Zenfretta was out doing his rounds when he saw 4 lights. Didn't your guys see 4 lights as well? Or they just saw lights?
They just saw light. They didn't never give a number. Yeah, they just saw lights.
Well, he saw 4 lights coming towards a house that he had been contracted to secure and guard. So he began to walk towards the lights, and he pulls out his pistol because, he doesn't know who this is. He sees 4 strange lights coming up on him. And he saw that there was something that was stepping out from between these lights. Now, he doesn't really say he saw a craft. It was lights, but something began to step out from between the lights. And he said that these things were about 10 feet tall, so much bigger than anything we've heard before.
Ooh.
10 feet tall, green-skinned, mouthpiece wearing, and I don't know what that means, some kind of mouthpiece wearing reptilian-looking things with spikes that appeared to extend backwards from their heads. So just this row of spikes that went down the back of their heads.
Mm-hmm.
He claimed that they seemed to hit him with some sort of heat beam. And he sprinted away, and he radioed in, radioed in to his supervisor, like, y'all got to come help me. There's something going on out here. I don't even know what I'm looking at. I need some help. And then suddenly he broke off all contact. Uh-oh. Put it up there.
Ken said it's for coronavirus protection. Their face mask.
Their mouthpiece.
Their
mouthpiece.
This
was in 78, Ken.
So
there wasn't no Rona. 78.
Oh, God.
So after he sprinted away and he radioed in, suddenly he broke off contact, only to be found later by a security patrol. So his supervisors had actually sent somebody out to find him. That's how panicked he must have sounded. And whenever he saw the other guards approaching him, he yanked up his gun and pointed it at him. But fortunately, he didn't fire. They're going, hey, Zenfretta, it's us, don't shoot. When the scene was later investigated, there was found very unusually large footprints that were about 20 to 25 inches long.
Ooh.
So
Yeah.
2 feet.
Damn.
2 feet long footprints. And that was found along with the evidence of scorching among the edges of this tree line, which indicated that at least something out of the ordinary had happened. Now, they didn't know what it was, but they're willing to see that something kind of strange had to have happened. But you see, that wasn't the end of everything for Zenfretta. On December the 26th, the day after Christmas, the aliens returned. And this time, as he puts it, they got him. He later recalled under hypnotic, in a form of hypnotic trance, he recalled that the aliens took him inside the craft and attached a sort of communication helmet to him. And one of the aliens shot Zenfretta's gun into a piece of metal, apparently just to kind of see what it would do and see what would happen.
Mm-hmm.
And Zenfretta said that he told the lizard men that he was afraid and he wanted to be released and he wanted to go home and that, don't come back and see me. I got nothing to tell you. I got nothing to know. And he says that they let him go. And then he was abducted again on July the 29th of 1979. And then again on December the 2nd of 1979. And then for a fifth time in 1980. And on the fifth occasion, the aliens took him to a crystal-looking, what he called a mothership, and showed him a frog-like being suspended in a tube that they claimed was an enemy of their species. And through it all, they provided very little actual motive as to why they repeatedly abducted him. And, he was just a security guard. See, but, I'm a security guard. I don't know why they want to take me. I don't get it.
Yeah.
And they would abduct him over and over for short periods of time. And Zenfretta didn't seem to have any benefit from this happening to him, and he didn't get any kind of benefit from these claims. And in fact, he spent decades languishing in obscurity after the initial media flurry over his claims, to the point where he just kind of went into hiding and just went away.
Yeah.
So old Zenfretta says there's lizard people. And apparently some froggy looking dude, that's their enemy.
So that actually leads to like something that you and I had talked about the other day. Okay, let's a little discussion time.
Okay.
Here.
All right, little discussion time.
A little more on the serious note, because that's kind of an interesting one, because I don't know of many off the top of my head where there's been multiple abductions of one person.
Mm-hmm.
But we've been talking now all night long about space penguins and all these tiny ones, all these different hairy frogs,
and these were big,
all this
10
stuff.
feet tall.
And you and I had a conversation about, we've brought her up before on the last one, Jenny Zeidman, who was the last surviving member of Project Blue Book, one of the original members of Project Blue Book. Absolutely fascinating woman. I cannot get enough of her, by the way.
I know. Do you not love UFO Witness? Do you not love it?
UFO Witness, but not only that, but like researching her.
She's fascinating.
Now, she was the one that had said that basically, if you think of all the different creeds and races of people on planet, that's how many different ones there are out in the universe.
Different skin colors, different eye colors, different hair colors, different heights, different shapes, different sizes. They are all there.
So it just makes you wonder with all these bizarre stories, even though they're bizarre, because I think that lore and legend, stuff like that. There's a little bit of, I think there has to be a little bit of truth in some lore and legend. Do you think that there might be a little bit of truth behind some of these stories, as bizarre as they sound?
Yes, actually, I do, because
I would agree.
If you think about it, think of like okay, we as humans come in all shapes and sizes. We've got some people who we have, what is it called? Gigantism, whenever you're like really, really tall or really like exceptionally big. And then you have dwarfism, where you're really, really small. They're all people. It's just with some different factor in their DNA that makes them just that much different. Now, how deep you want to go into this blood?
You know what?
How do you want to call
I'm-
because you're
I'm
about to get me
open-
you're about to get me on a tear that
I am open for discussion. I mean, we got some time. I'm open for discussion. However deep you want to get.
okay. So shall we go into the idea that perhaps, and I actually think that this is incredibly viable and incredibly likely to have happened, that perhaps that alien DNA is already in the human race consistency. Because, and let's just take you and I, for example.
Okay.
If you have blue eyes, you come from one source. One source. That means that every person that has blue eyes is related. So, if you have nations of people that are predominantly brown-eyed, that blue eye is a mutation. Where does that blue eye come from? Now, I have heard it said that blue-eyed people actually have some form of genetic DNA that is different, that you come up different whenever you have your blood taken, things like the Rh negative factor, which is allegedly alien DNA because there is no point of origin for Rh negative. No point of origin for it. Not that could be traced or found. It just suddenly kind of appears.
Mhm.
Also, people with the Rh negative factor tend to have an A blood type. Do you know your blood type, Blake?
AB negative.
I'm an A. Interesting. So you're a hybrid. I'm a purebred alien. So do you believe that there is a possibility?
Blue
Yes,
eyes. Blue eyes. Yeah.
So do you believe that there is a possibility that that genetic mutation, that because blue eyes are a recessive gene in our DNA, do you believe that somewhere that little bit was spliced in as an experimentation? Come on, let's see how deep down this rabbit hole you want to run with me.
God, do I believe that? Oof.
Can I piss off the religious people right away? If you're religious, hang on. If God creates the perfect person and he does not make mistakes, which if you are religious and you believe that, I'm all with you. Go on with yourself. I'm with you. Go. However, if God made these perfect people, where did the mutations come from? Where did the strangeness come from? All of these differences. If everyone truly descended from Adam and Eve, two people. That's it. Right? So where does the interesting, I know I'm pissing people off left and right. It's a discussion. I'm not saying anyone's wrong or right. So where do the mutations come from?
This is some good brew over here.
I bet it is. I noticed. See, now where's Ryan? Because see, Ryan will be going at it with me. You're about
I know.
to, oh no, now you
I
have to participate.
So
So do you think that we are potentially being blue-eyed people, and I'm using us?
Right.
I think we are potentially a little splice out of that little alien DNA. If you're blue-eyed, yeah, you should probably worry.
That is I don't know if I can honestly give you a straightforward answer, yes or no, on that. Because
Give me your opinion then.
For me, I had never really sat down and thought about that. Like whether the mutations and what genes that people receive and have are in fact some type of intervention or extraterrestrial, let's just say extraterrestrial intervention.
Because I think we could be lab rats. Do you think we could be lab rats?
I'm not going to say that the possibility isn't out there, because we have so many stories of people who are being abducted, who are being taken away, who are being brought back to Earth and sat back down.
Who have implants and things like that in them.
And stuff like that. So I'm not saying that the idea of us possibly being lab rats for them couldn't be true. I don't know if I've ever sat down and thought about the mutations to human genetics being a modification from something that is otherworldly.
Organic.
Right. So I'm going to have to say that I honestly do not know on that. I can't give you a yes or no on that.
Where is Ryan? Where's Ryan?
But
Come on, Ryan would argue with me. Come on, let's argue it.
That's an I mean, it's an interesting take. It is. Off the top of my head. All right, fine. Just off the top of my head, you want my straightforward right now answer?
Yep.
No, I don't think
You don't
so.
think so? You
No.
think that is a genuine genetic mutation?
I think
for whatever reason, something went wrong at some point, and 2 dominant genes suddenly went, I think I'll be blue today. Really?
I think that there could be a more biological answer to it.
What is it?
Well, I ain't no biologist. I mean, shit.
You have basic biology though.
I do.
And a dominant gene is always dominant. And so if you have a dominant gene, a recessive gene, the dominant gene always wins. Therefore, since brown eyes are a dominant gene, how does it suddenly this one singular blue-eyed person appear out of nowhere?
I don't know. I think, like you were just saying a while ago, that goes back to there's one source that it comes from, right?
That's right.
So,
what they do? Hatch from a fucking egg? I mean, where'd they come from?
I mean, they could have. It could have been a pod. I mean,
by the way, in case you didn't know, me and Blake and Ryan, we're all related somehow. Yeah, we're all related. If you have blue eyes, hi, cuz, what's up?
Yeah, we're like the blue-eyed children. No, I don't think that something as simple as blue eyes. I think that's pretty simple. To me, I don't think something as simple as blue eyes can be something that's extraterrestrial intervention. I like saying those 2 words together, so I'm going to keep saying extraterrestrial intervention.
Why not?
I think that it has to do with something that is more of along a biological evolutionary standpoint. I think that it has to do with something that could be that plays into a factor of people from a certain area that are affected by certain climate issues or not just climate, but environmental issues or stuff like that. To just over time, the genetic makeup inside of them.
I'm not saying people don't evolve. Of course, they can evolve.
Well, yeah. No.
It's either adapt or die, right?
Yeah. I mean, but it's okay. Put it into an example like this: the salamanders that are in the caves that are born all albino, see through, and can't see, no eyes. Mm-hmm. They've adapted to their circumstances,
right? Because they have no use for melanin in their skin because they live in the darkness,
right? And so I see it as something along that lines, that maybe there was a factor back then that we're still not aware of, that we haven't found, that we don't know of, that could have played into or the recessive gene taking over at some point. I don't know. I can't say that it's 100% extraterrestrial intervention because I can't 100% rule out a biological evolutionary change. That's my.
I'll accept that. I'll accept that.
So that's why I say
you made your point very well. And I'm going to tell you that I have talked to several people who have claims to be abductees and have been, I guess they call themselves experiencers now. Mm-hmm. And they talk of experimentation, which is why I just can't rule out that some of these things, I think, again, we're dirt clods. You just saw that big old picture of all these galaxies that are out everywhere. And yeah, we can get this, thousands and thousands and thousands and millions of light years away, but nobody can get a clear picture of Bigfoot. Yeah, but you can't tell me that there's not something out there that does just what we do to animals and soil and stuff like that. And you can't tell me that they may not be farming us. I think there's every bit that possibility. And if that makes me sound absolutely. Like a quick quack, then I'm a quick quack. It's cool.
I think my standpoint on extraterrestrials, aliens, UFOs, whatever you want to put the umbrella as, I mean, they have to be out there. I mean, I'm sorry, but it's just it's that freaking picture. So
God, please tell me that we are not the most intelligent thing in this freaking universe.
And I don't think that we are.
I'm quite certain we can't. There's no freaking way.
I think that there are others that are well beyond us, and I think that it's almost kind of.
Maybe we're like that. Their little packet of sea monkeys. They dumped some water here, and suddenly we started growing. It's like, oh look, I don't know. I mean, we're a little sea monkey experiment. I don't know.
But I think that it would be a disservice to not think that experiencers are having these moments in their lives because there isn't some type of farming going on of some sorts, or some type of. Why do you think everybody says that I went up into the ship and I got experimented on? You know, I think that it's just as we find a new creature on Earth or in the water or, you know, the sea that's hardly been
What's the first thing we
discovered.
do? We try to catch it or tag it or
Catch
draw
it,
its
dissect
blood.
it.
Yeah.
That's why I hate when humans find something new, because they kill it. But anyways, that's another conversation. You're pissing off the religious people. I'm pissing off everybody else.
Okay, that's fine.
But I think the same thing is being done to humans in a way. I think that it would be stupid not to think that way. I mean, we can't be.
So you think we potentially are lab rats?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I agreed with that a while ago.
Oh, okay.
But on that same note, I still cannot say that something
everything
that
is
something like blue eyes is extraterrestrial intervention when it could have been a biological evolutionary change. And I don't think that we'll ever know something as broad as that, because that would take a heck of a lot of freaking testing.
If I ever get abducted, I'm going to ask them and I'm going to know the answer for sure. And I'll come back and I'll tell you. I will. I'll be like, you know what? Take me to your leader. I got some questions.
I got some questions.
We're going to have to talk about this shit. So yeah, that was just kind of, that's kind of my thing. I do believe that we're kind of like, people who have, or who are experiencers, the stories they tell, to actually listen to them tell it's fascinating. Mm-hmm. You can hear it in their voice. Mm-hmm. And there is a certain demeanor that they take on. I found that it's very respectful. They're very respectful when they talk about it. There's a bit of fear in there, and there's a bit of awe to their voice. Mm-hmm. And there's also a small bit of almost like they're ashamed of it, like, you know, kind of like, okay, so this is what happened to me. Like, but for whatever reason, the ones that are brave enough to talk, their stories are important. Can you imagine if this was going on and like it was happening to lots of people and nobody said anything and you thought you were the only one? You know, that's got to be terrifying. Go ahead.
We have two questions in the comments. I'll pop up on the screen real quick. First one's from Jenny, and it said, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but it said, did the first human have pure brown eyes and no recessive eye colors? I'm not sure. I'm going to go ahead and say I'm not sure.
Pray on it.
I
don't know. I don't think it ever says what eye color Adam and Eve had, but I do know that here we go, getting biblical, that Jesus was described as having dark skin and dark eyes and hair like wool. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
I can't answer that honestly. I don't know. I think that would be something that it would just. We're not the right people to ask.
Yeah, I am not. I mean, just depending, because if you look at a Bible, it depends on which Bible you're looking at. And some, everyone is depicted as white, and some, everyone is depicted as brown, some, everyone is depicted as black. Depends on which Bible you're reading. Yeah. So I do not know that. And again, I'm not trying to make anybody that's religious angry. I am trying to bring about a conversation. And if that sparks you to think, yay. Right. Thank you for the question. I truly don't know the answer.
Now, Ken has asked, and I think this is what you're trying to say, Shelley, is that basically what if aliens made a slight change in our DNA and then beamed us back down? Is that what you're talking about? Or you were talking about some other type of...
I'm not necessarily saying they beamed us back down. I'm just saying that I think they came in and they went, kind of like whenever you change out the bleach tab in your toilet bowl tank. We're going to put in blue this time, see what happens. We're going to put in the white one and look at that. I mean, I think we're lab rats.
Horrible way to put it, but yeah.
I know, but if you think about it,
it's very true.
I mean, it's like changing out your air freshener. How about that? Today we're going to be apple cinnamon, tomorrow peppermint twist. I mean,
I think to answer that question for Ken, I think for me personally, I think that would be the way that it would be done. If there is some type of lab rat experimentation or intervention happening on their part, I think that that's why the abductions take place or the experiences take place for these experiencers. I think that they're tested on and run test-ons, things happen to them, and there could be an alteration taking place at that moment that is then passed down to future generations to see what the hell happens.
You know what? What if it is a genetic alteration? Because a lot of women that are experiencers report having things done to their uterus, to their ovaries. A lot. What if they're taking just a few eggs and they're going with little needle and they're going, here we go. And a lot of women who are abductees recall syringes into their abdomens multiple times.
A lot of them.
What if they are adjusting the little DNA in that cell and they're going to go, okay, here it is. We're putting it right back in. We've made a slight change. We hope this is the one that, that the sperm wins the race to. Yeah. And this could maybe not ever come to fruition, or maybe it could.
Right.
So just going based on that, I think there is potentially changes being made to our genetic makeup as often as there are abductees. So
that could very well be a good point.
So do we completely have y'all going, this chick is a loony bird?
I think at the end of this, they're like, man, I follow this podcast. What the hell?
Yeah, that's okay. Welcome.
But hey, it's like Shelley said a while ago. If we make you think and
that's all we're trying to do,
have a conversation, then good. We did our job.
Yeah, we're not saying you're right or you're wrong, or we're right or we're wrong. Trust me, this is what we do on our phone calls. We go, okay, so let me just ask y'all this. What if? And we do this to each other to make each other think, and to make each other kind of approach it at, look at things from a different angle and look at it a different way. However you usually think about it. Have you ever thought that maybe you're just a lab rat? Have you ever thought that maybe these differences in us are little spliced mutations in our genetic that were put here? Not accidents, right? No accidents, right?
If since you sounded a little bit on the crazier side, I guess I'll sound
Your
a little
turn.
bit on the crazier side.
That's okay. I don't mind sounding crazy. They know me.
Not just about genetic changes and stuff like that, but taking it on a completely different ball game. I'm a believer that there's some type of shit out there that is holding attacks at bay, and I think that there's shit out there that has our protection in place for us to be safe. And I think it's only a matter of time until all that shit blows up in our face.
Oh, so you're saying somebody out there got our backs? Oh, they'd have to. Somebody's got to be watching out for. And I think we're just this little experiment. But again, I do love George Sukatokalophologus, or whatever the hell his name is, that's on Ancient Aliens. I love him. I love it when he comes on the screen because he sounds like an ass. Yeah, whatever his name is, Mr.
George
yeah.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Snuffleupagus, right?
Yeah.
And he does. He sounds absolutely loony birds, and that's why I like him the most, because every now and then he will say something, and you'll go, "Oh crap! Either I've been listening too long, or actually that little piece made sense," and it makes you think. So that's okay. If even if I'm sounding a little bit too much like him right now, I'm really okay with that, because I want you to think. I want you to kind of go in and go into work tomorrow and ask your friend, you think people with blue eyes are aliens? Just see what they do, because sometimes the reaction's what it's worth. That's all it's all about.
You know what? I think I'm going to do that tomorrow. I think I'm going to go in and just be like, you think people with blue eyes are aliens?
There you go. You go. And then look at them like this.
Do you think guys or people with blue eyes are aliens?
Look into my eyes and tell me your honest answer.
Lord,
that really is kind of scary when we both do that.
Well, I tell you what, one thing that viewers, listeners, y'all can do that we've rant and rave. We're going to reiterate one that we talked about last week. Roswell Final Verdict, fascinating. Go watch it. Second one that we're still on, UFO Witness.
There are still new episodes coming out, and a new one came out the other day. It's fantastic.
Fascinating. Oh my God, it's so fascinating.
Definitely go and see that. Absolutely. Well, since we're talking about tiny splices in DNA, may I tell you another?
That's a horrible segue,
story?
But yeah, go for it.
Okay. These are called the ginger aliens.
Oh, Jesus.
I always bring it back around to center, right?
If this has anything to do, with fire crotches, I'm out.
Oh, I wish I'd have found one like that, but no, it does not.
All right, go ahead.
So, Jose Antonio de Silva, why you like me? From Brazil. Again, I went around the world with my alien stories.
You did.
He just wanted to fish. He got up early in that morning, and that's what he was going to do. He was going to go fishing. And after having hiked to the lake and set up a camp the day before, he was fishing. But around 3:00 in the afternoon, his plans changed when a group of 4-foot-tall humanoids, completely covered head to toe in strange suits, paralyzed his legs, and then dragged him aboard, as he phrased it, a weird craft. For hours, De Silva sat with his captors as this strange vehicle moved. There were no windows, and so he didn't know where he was going. He could only kind of feel the rocking motion of the craft back and forth, and he had no idea where he was going. They had placed some kind of helmet over his head. It's the second time we've heard something about a helmet.
Mm-hmm.
They placed a helmet over his head, just like the ones that they were wearing themselves. And when they reached their destination, he was brought into a large room and placed sitting on a stool. Not lying down, he was sitting up. They let him actually sit on a stool. Here he saw these beings without their helmets on, even though he continued to wear his. Among them was one being who was slightly taller and appeared to be in charge. They all looked about the same. They looked roughly human, with red hair that hung to their waists, and red beards that stretched all the way down to their stomachs. Their eyebrows were thick and red, at least 2 finger widths thick, is how I described them. No eyelashes, on a slightly larger than human set of green eyes. The biggest difference was their mouth. They were a little wider than a human's, but they had no teeth, looking more like the inside of a fish's mouth when they opened and closed them. They communicated to De Silva by means of gestures and illustrations, and he soon understood that they wanted him to go back to Earth and gather information for them. Then eventually return to live with them for several years. Finally, he would then return to Earth as their ambassador and their guide. Now, De Silva, he was like, he's like, hell no, and he refused the offer. And with that, he was taken back to the strange craft, and after some time of riding this weird vehicle, he was dropped off in the middle of the night in the middle of the stream. Once he found his way to the road, he was able to learn he was about 18.6 miles from where he had been fishing.
Oh, damn.
And 4.5 days had passed.
It's like a 4-star Uber rating. Screw that shit. Dropped me off 18.6 miles away from where I was. That's some bullshit.
This is the first time I'd ever heard of red-headed aliens with long red hair and long red beards and huge green green eyes with mouths like fishes, but with no teeth.
Well, Ken said they sound Irish, so
it sounds to me like he got abducted by a damn bunch of garden gnomes. I mean, this one is weird. Can you see them with their little hats? Because you can't see her.
Yeah.
Just like, ooh. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. How you can see is their beards and their hair. I found that one strange because that's why I saved that one, because I figured we were going to get into the difference of the DNA and stuff. But these were alleged to have had big green eyes. All the other aliens we've heard about have got these dark eyes. Mm-hmm. These are different. So.
I don't know. I'll ask you a question. And then,
oh hell, you're gonna try to make me look crazy again. That's all right. I can do that myself. Go ahead.
I am.
Okay, that's
then
fine.
You can turn the question right back on me.
Okay.
Would you prefer or not to or would you prefer or not prefer to ever have an experience?
Oh, I'd rather not. I don't like to see myself naked in the mirror. I damn sure don't want anybody else seeing me. Because I'm getting old. Things start to not be where they're supposed to be. I'm like,
But what if you get abducted by like the plastic surgery aliens or something? I mean,
Child, they'd probably end up putting a nipple on my forehead, and that would not where I'd want it to be. I could see something going terribly wrong with that. No.
Come on, Picasso.
No, I know. It's like, okay, I see you the ones who created that motherfucker down there. Okay. No. I would prefer not to. Number one, I come off crazy enough whenever I talk, but that's only because I really and truly. Let me tell you something. I don't believe half the shit I say. I'm just trying to make an argument and spark a conversation, just so you know. Sounding crazy is fun for me because it makes y'all, it keeps y'all a little off balance.
Well, then I'll be the crazy one for the next little bit.
Okay. So you would like to be abducted?
To answer my own question, I've already had an experience.
I
have had, yes, and I have told you and Ryan about this just once. Well, actually, I've had two that I can't really explain. I can't make out. But when I was, I think I was about 14, 15, somewhere in that age range, I was hanging out with a friend of mine. We'll call her Kelly. So me and Kelly are going to her house. Now, Kelly lives way out in the middle of freaking nowhere. You go down a long stretch, turn on the road, go down that stretch about another mile, and then you turn into their driveway. It's a dirt road, and it's her aunt's driveway, and then they split off through some trees, and you go cut across the pasture, and you go to their house out in the middle of freaking nowhere. That's where Kelly lives. Okay, so we were going out to Kelly's house. Kelly had to go get something from her house. She wanted me to go with her. We go out to her house. We go in the house. We collect whatever we needed to collect. We're coming out. We parked her car underneath the carport. Her car from the house, 50 feet, maybe, something like that. We make it just about to where the carport starts, and I'm kind of doing like this, and I see something. And I was like, what is that? And I look up, and there are three, if I can make the triangle correctly. Yeah, for those who are not going to be able to see me, there are three in a triangle formation, red dots in the sky. And at first I was like, oh, it's a plane or helicopters or something like that. There was no noise. There was no sound, nothing like that. She's looking at it too, because I was like, what the hell is that? And as we're sitting there and we're like, oh, that's plane, this helicopter, whatnot, all three of them started to like circle each other in like figure eight fashions around each other and just kind of dance around each other like that. And we didn't stick around to figure out what the hell it was. When they started moving and circling around each other, I mean, we hightailed it for her car. We got in her car, shut the door, locked the doors, hit the reverse, and backed the hell out and flew the hell out of there. So
it scared you?
It scared the shit out of me. I literally felt like the blood rush out of my body is what it felt like. Just petrified head to toe. Hightailed it the freak out of there. Got in the car, locked the doors, and flew.
They were coming to check on their little pet chicken. They were trying to find you.
I didn't give a shit. I didn't give a shit. I wasn't sticking around to figure out what they needed. And the other time was actually very recently because...
May I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you think they were there for you? They let you get away. Do you think they were just there hanging out? Do you think you ventured up wrong time, wrong place? Because a lot of people say that the lights come up on them out of nowhere, and it's obvious that they are looking for them. People say they have experiences over and over and over.
I think I saw something I wasn't supposed to see.
Oh,
that's the way that I see it. I think I saw something I wasn't supposed to see, and I think that was maybe part of the reason why I was able to hightail it out of there with her. We didn't stick around. I didn't experience anything that I can remember. Now, remember, I was 14, 15 years. I mean, this is a while back. I was 14 or 15 years old. I can't remember anything along the lines of, did we lose time? For some reason, that's all foggy still. I remember my memory of it stops at watching them circle and picks back up whenever we were coming out of the driveway onto the main road.
Toss and gravel. Yeah,
toss and gravel. So, I can't say exactly if there was a time slip, time loss, or anything like that, because it's real foggy in there still for me, between the moment of seeing them and the moment of realizing we were on the main road. Now, the other one that was interesting, I was actually on the phone with you and Ryan when I saw something in the sky that I could not explain. And we were... I think we were 6 episodes into the podcast, something like that. So this was towards the end of last year. And I used to do the podcast from a different location until I got all of my microphone and everything set up here at the house. So we finished up the podcast. I'm leaving the other location. I'm driving back. I'm driving down the road.
And we were doing our normal post-podcast call. We do a pre-podcast
Yep.
call the night before and a post-podcast call. Right? We're like, okay, here's what we got to fix. This is what we're gonna do. What's next week? Who's got next week? Okay.
Yeah. And so we were doing all that. I was kind of halfway paying attention, and I'm coming down the road that leads to my road to turn off of, or to turn onto my road to my house. And I'm just sitting there chit chatting with y'all, and I'm driving, and there's a part in the road where it kind of goes down a little bit. And when it goes down, I can see I'm about eye level with some of the top of the roofs of the houses. And I'm looking towards this clearing in a tree, and it looks like over the top of this house in the backyard sits this object. Now, this object appeared rather large to me. I would not put it as about any bigger than a car. But I would really kind of put it, if it had to be a car, I'd put like a smart car, maybe about that. All I could
you
see
don't
was
know
kind
the
of
exact distance it was
bottom.
from you, so it could have been a lot bigger.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can guesstimate. I was about 4 houses down from it. These are about 50-foot lot lines in the front. So do the math, 200 feet away from it, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had to estimate how big and parameter was, I'd put it about the size of a car, smart car, something along that size. And I'm driving, and it didn't register that what I was seeing was what I was seeing until I damn near, it went behind a tree. And as I'm coming right underneath the tree, I went, whoa. And I said it on the phone. Oh my God, guys. Oh my God. I was like, hold on 1 second.
He did.
I was like,
wait. Yelled. He
I
goes,
was like, holy shit.
Holy
I see
crap.
something.
What is that in the sky? He goes, holy crap, y'all. I just saw something. And we're like, pull over, take a picture, get it on camera. We're like, hang up.
And it was like right at that spot in the road where I was at. There wasn't any driveways, and I had a little bit of a stretch.
And you didn't have a shoulder.
And I didn't have, there's no shoulder on this road. And because it's a neighborhood, or it's a subdivision road, so there are no shoulders or anything. And I didn't have a driveway to get turned into, and there was a little bit of a stretch of road for me to get to another street that I could get turned around on. But I had to turn on the street, go down a little bit, and turn around, and then come back. And we're talking, guys, 5-10 seconds passed, maybe something like that.
Yeah, just enough for you to get up, because he floored it and he whipped around.
I did. And I whipped around because I started putting it on the video, because we were
he was trying to
FaceBook.
Yeah, he was trying to FaceTime us, and so we could see what he was looking at.
Yeah. And by the time that 10 seconds, maybe 15 passed.
Whipped around, jumped out
to look at it and get a good video. Gone. Nothing. Not a stitch in the sky. No light. No shape. No nothing. There was not enough time to pass for something that large to disappear that
If
quickly.
it was a plane, you would have still been able to see the lights on it blinking.
And it would not have been a plane, because this thing was sitting only about 15 foot higher than the tops of the roofs of the house.
And even if it was a helicopter, there would have been noise. And you said there was no noise.
No noise.
Yeah, trust me, y'all. We asked him all these questions. We're like, okay, can you get back in your car, and can you drive back the direction you came and redo the drive to see if there's something that's reflecting that you can recreate? Oh, yeah, we were putting him through his paces. He was like, y'all, I got to get calm. I'm like, you got to go drive that sumbitch one more time first. And he was doing it, trying to recreate it, and couldn't recreate it.
I could not. So, to answer my own question, would you like to have an experience? I believe, bottom of my heart, that I've had 2 that I can't explain. I don't know what the hell I've seen. I don't know what it is.
I thought you were talking about being abducted. I'm like, child, no, I don't want to be abducted. You want to be abducted?
No, I don't want to be abducted.
Okay, so I thought that's the question you were asking.
An experience.
Yeah, that's the experience I was talking about. Well, me, the experience is the full ride. Don't go in and just clip my toenails. I want the massage and the facial too.
Gotcha. Okay,
I'm
understand.
not just a manny and petty person. Give me the full body rub down.
Any level of experience, from just seeing it to being an experiencer, is there any on the spectrum that you would like to have? Let's put it that way. Let's word it that way.
Oh, I wouldn't mind seeing something, but you know me, that I never believe anything the first time I see it. I'm like, no, can you come back? If you can come back, then I will believe that you are there. I'd have to see it 3 or 4 times, like zip up, like right in my face, and then go away and be like, oh, okay, wait a minute. Yeah. I think I blinked. Can you do that again? I mean, I wouldn't believe what I'd seen. I'd be like, no, y'all, that's good. I'd be like, where's the reflection? Okay, who's holding their phone? Somebody get a flashlight. What is that? Let's see if we can redo it. It would probably take me seeing something over and over multiple times before I actually really believed that I could be seeing what I was seeing.
Yeah.
Because I much as I love the aliens and everything, I'm very much a skeptic. But I'm a skeptic with an open mind. So
I ain't a skeptic. Not after those two instances. I have no idea what the hell I'd seen, but I seen it.
You seen it? I do
seen
believe
it.
there's bigger and badder things than us, but you know, I mean, I guess I believe they're there, but I wouldn't believe that I'd actually seen one unless I'd really undeniable proof caught on camera that I had seen it.
Yeah.
Because you know, me telling somebody, they'd be like, whatever, that bitch is crazy. Yeah, you know they would. So anyway, have we sufficiently told our funny and our strange alien stories
and our personal ones too?
And I'm pretty sure I've pissed off the religious people. Don't be mad at me, religious people. I'm just starting a conversation.
Just a conversation.
Again, it's just a conversation. Don't be angry. You know, and if you're an experiencer, I'd love to hear your story.
Oh my God, I would love to hear, especially in the month of July. If you've got an experience that you don't mind sharing, send it to the evppod@gmail.com. That's THEEVPPOD@gmail.com. So 2 E's, 2 P's.
I love to hear those stories, and
if
thank
you don't
for
mind
your
us,
courage.
Yeah, if you don't mind us sharing it, send it to that email address and just say, hey, here's a story that I don't mind you sharing. You can put whatever name you want in there. You want us to hide your name? Just let us know all the details like that. We don't mind reading your story. I'd love to hear some of y'all's stories. But yeah, well, we hope y'all enjoyed another week of Everything Vaguely Paranormal. Next week, we promise that all three will be back on the screen. So Ryan,
hey, we didn't tump over the seesaw. We got close once or twice, but I don't think
we didn't tump it over. I mean, we
got close to tumping it over when I started.
Well, no, we didn't get close to tumping it over.
I felt like I was doing this to it. So
no, we didn't tump it. We didn't get close to tumping it over. We turned it into a freaking merry-go-round.
Okay.
Anyways, but yeah. But always remember, whatever social media channel you're watching us from, that's not the only social media channel we are on. And guess what? We are now on TikTok. So you can go follow us there for behind the scenes footage, all investigation, all the time. That's what we're going to utilize that channel for. So make sure you go and follow us at Vaguely Paranormal on TikTok. We are also across all the other social media channels. Make sure you follow us on theirs, because we don't always use all social media channels for everything. We use all different ones for different reasons. So also, we still got tickets available for next month's investigation at the Gray County Historical Museum. I do believe we're about half sold out, which is about typical. And I do anticipate this one, or we do anticipate this one selling out.
It always sells out.
So if you'd like to join us here in Longview, Texas, at the Gray County Historical Museum for a 7-hour ghost hunt at a place that has yet to disappoint, go find the link on our Facebook page and we will get that reposted as well so that you can get your tickets. And we also still have tickets left for Old Park Hotel, which is also about half sold out, for October the 8th. And if you come to that one, you will be the first to know a very, very, very big secret.
We're gonna I love how you keep just throwing that in there.
I know.
We're not supposed to talk about it.
I said a big secret.
Not. Oh yeah,
but I could be pregnant for all they know. I mean, come on, like.
I thought you weren't going to tell that till you told. Oh my goodness.
I know.
There you go.
Sorry.
The cat's
Broke
out of the bag.
News. Cat's
By the way,
out of the bag.
that's Blake, not Shelly, because Shelly would have a heart attack and die.
Take it away, Shelly.
So there are other. If you want to hang out with us more and really, see, we really talk about how stupid we can be. Become a Patreon member. That is, it's $5 a month. There is one tier. We don't gouge you for like, here's a 10 and 15. No, we give you everything. $5, one tier, and you get all the exclusive pre-broadcast. You get to see our Paracon presentation that we did. That's Patreon members only. You get some exclusive content, like a couple of my favorite drinks to make, a couple of Brian's reviews, and Blake has got a brand new topic coming up that he hasn't fully explained all the details to me, but it's going to be brand new just for Patreon members only. So you can sign up, you become a Patreon member, $5 a month, and you can hang out with us. Now, here's the other thing. Please go and rate and review us. If you see us, if you follow us, share us. And whenever you share us, tell them to subscribe or hit that like button on YouTube, Apple, anywhere you have your podcast. I've almost done this just about like Ryan. I think he does it better than me, though, but don't tell him that.
Ryan's got it down pretty good.
I know Ryan does have it down.
We all have our own little second.
Please share us with friends. And again, share us with your friends in the military. Because shout out like a man in uniform. I do. That's why I have a thing for the Aussies. Military uniform, prison uniform, uniform to me. So anyhow.
And on that note, we thank y'all for joining us for this week of Everything Vaguely Paranormal. As always, I am Blake Smith, and for Miss Shelley Pruitt tonight, we will see you next Tuesday. Bye, y'all.
Bye.